Hello, hello. Just a second. I have to fix things up since it's been my first time streaming in a while. Toggle this. But yes, I am back from Japan. People keep asking me how it was, and I feel like it's difficult to even answer that question because it was so great, and um I do not have the vocabulary to say how good it was. So I don't know. I feel more inspired to make art. But then if I want to make art based on my experience in Japan, I also want to know more about Japanese history. So I'm putting on a fun background video to learn more. As I'm sure there's going to be plenty of times during this video where I'm going to be tongue-tied. So just keeping us both brain working.
Explaining what happened before that led to that point. It's like when you try to clean your room. Well, why don't I start by cleaning my desk? There's a bunch of stuff in there that I can put in my closet. Man, you can't. Your closet is totally full. Okay, then I'll just clean my closet first. There's a bunch of stuff in there that I can put in my drawers. Dude, your drawers are full of crap too. Fine, then I'll clean out my drawers first. There's a bunch of stuff in there that I can put in my desk. You just said you hadn't cleaned your desk yet. Luckily, the Japanese creation myth gives us a good place to start. It is a legend about how the Japanese islands formed. It is a story that
Did we watch this from the beginning together?
Did
Sorry.
Japan come from sex between two gods?
Important starting question.
Doing a series on the history of Japan, I had a hard time deciding on where to start. It seems simple to just say, let's start at the beginning, but when is the beginning? With history,
The
it
hats.
depends on what
I'll
comes
start with the
before it
hat.
until the beginning of time. How do you explain a point in history without explaining what happened before that led to that point? It's like when you try to clean your room. Well, why don't I start by cleaning my desk? There's a bunch of stuff in there that I can put in my closet. Man, you can't. Your closet is totally full. Okay, then I'll just clean my closet first. There's a bunch of stuff in there that I can put in my drawers. Dude, your drawers are full of crap too. Fine, then I'll clean out my drawers first. There's a bunch of stuff in there that I can put in my desk. You just said you hadn't cleaned your desk yet. Luckily, the Japanese creation myth gives us a good place to start. It is a legend about how the Japanese islands formed. It is a story that involves two gods, Izanagi and Izanami.
Corresponding layer not found. OMG, I thought you died. I went on vacation, but now I'm back. And it's Christmas, so want to get this done.
Spirit or phenomenon. Amazing event. Shinto is Japan's oldest religion.
Let me add all these
the other being Buddhism. Shinto is all about the worship
to the
kami.
art
Kami
mesh.
can be almost anything. If you
And
can think of anything
frame.
remotely interesting in life, there's probably a kami.
My computer doesn't crash.
Amaterasu is the kami of the sun. The kami of rain controls the rain. People after they die eventually become kami. These ancestral kami hang around the family and they are revered and honored, especially in aristocratic families.
I didn't know that.
Kami can also be interesting objects. For example, if there is a large, impressive-looking tree in a village, the people of the village may say,
And how have you been through this November?
Let's worship it and hope it protects our village.
Did you have a nice Thanksgiving?
Sold for $100,000 on eBay? Probably a kami. A kami can be good or mischievous, and people may worship the mischievous ones to prevent them from doing bad things. Alright, now that we know what a kami is, back to our story about Izanagi.
A automatic layout.
That were born before them, but
I
they won't
think
be in this video because
I have to
it's
add
my
these
video and I
all.
can do what I want. Shut up.
Oh, I don't think you can see the edit texture atlas page, but it's there, trust me. I'm struggling.
Two kami, Izanagi and Izanami, brother and sister, thrust their spear into the water and swirled it around. They pulled the spear back up and some mud dropped down into the water, forming an island. The two kami descended to live on the island. They eventually fell in love and got married.
Oh god.
Yes, they're brother and sister.
Amazing, you got Twitch? Oh, that's awesome. Are you also planning to stream?
The 8 main islands of Japan. Yeah, I know Japan's bigger than that, but in ancient times the other islands were not part of Japan. This also answers the question asked in the beginning of the video. Yes, Japan did come from sex between two gods. Then, because birth control was not yet invented, they gave birth to many, many kami, representing the mountains, valleys, winds, rivers, and other natural features of Japan. However, when Izanami gave birth to the fire kami, she was critically burned and lay dying. As Izanagi knelt there, crying, his tears created even more kami, and Izanami also continued to create more until she died and went to the underworld. Izanagi was stricken with grief and traveled to the underworld to get his baby mama back.
Oh, that's awesome.
Izanami greeted him from the shadows and said, "I'll beg
Oh,
the
like you
kami
got
of
a
the
Twitch
underworld
account?
to release me, but promise you won't look at me." And he said, "Okay."
Hopefully then the
And later,
playback will be a
Izanagi
little
switched
less
to the
bad.
Twitch to see her face.
Because I know I
He
have a
saw
big
that his
delay on
once
YouTube.
beautiful wife was now a rotting corpse with maggots and foul creatures on her face. In a total dick move, Izanagi ran away from his dead wife because she was ugly. Izanami gave chase along
No,
with her
I
crew
don't
of
think
kami.
I'll stream. No
Izanagi
problem,
reached
no
the land of
problem.
the living and covered the
Sometimes
entrance
just
to the
playing
underworld
games
with
is
a big old
fun in
pole.
its own right.
His wife screamed from the other side, "I will kill 1,000 people every day if you leave." He yelled back, "Then I will create 1,500 people every day." And that is why the story goes, every day 1,000 people die and 1,500 people are born. And those
Are you
numbers
excited
hold
for
true to
Christmas?
this day. Back in the land of the living, Izanagi took a bath to purify himself of the dead. More kami emerged from his discarded clothing in his bath. Seriously, these two can't even sneeze without creating more kami. Imagine if it was like that for us. Achoo! Oh no, not again.
Sorry, this is
Guys,
taking forever to load because I'm adding more stuff to the texture atlas, and it's always a bit resource intensive on my computer.
Another kami into the world. It's irresponsible. Look, I did it for the tax credit at first, but it's getting ridiculous. So now you just kick me out into the streets? I'll show you. Ah! When Izanagi washed
It's almost there.
the kami of the sun was created, Amaterasu. When
Woohoo!
he washed his right eye, kami of the moon was created, Tsukiyomi. When he washed his nose, the kami of the sea and storms was
I
created.
have a white elephant exchange with my friends this Thursday, so looking forward to that.
It said that all Japanese emperors descended from her. This is all very convenient to Japanese emperors, who used this belief in divine ancestry to legitimize their power. Alright guys, we'll stop here. Next episode, we will jump into the real world to see what Japan was like in prehistory. Who were the first people to settle in Japan? Were the aliens? Come back and find out. The very first people in Japan likely arrived in
I'll add those to the atlas later.
From Sakhalin.
Right now, I want this beret. Look good.
Between Sakhalin and Hokkaido. Now, just because they were the first people, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were the ancestors of the modern Japanese. They could be. Or it could be that they arrived, survived for a while, and then just died off. Like Brendan Fraser's career. Oh, Brendan.
I need to do that.
The ancestors of the modern Japanese
oh
came
no
from two waves of migration.
Looks amazing.
Migration
Thank
one
you.
brought people who came to be known as the Jin.
What?
Migration
No.
two brought the Yayoi. We'll talk about these people later. We're still unsure about who made up Migration 1. There are two competing theories. One theory, based on genetic evidence, claims that the very first people who came over from Sakhalin
I have a feeling it's going to be done this year.
ancestors of the Japanese. Researchers found that their genes are similar to the genes of modern Japanese people. A second theory holds that it was actually a migration from Taiwan and Southeast Asia. People were already living in Okinawa around 30,000 BC. The migrants came over by boat from Okinawa to Kyushu at around 10,000 BC when the Earth was just coming out of the previous ice age. This second theory is based on teeth shape.
Hey, Brett.
Did you know that Asians have two patterns of teeth? People from China to Northeast Asia, the backside of their upper four front teeth have depressions. They're shaped like shovels. They're also not aligned with the rest of the upper teeth. This teeth pattern is called synodonty. but we'll just call it shovel teeth.
Head.
People from Southeast Asia and Taiwan to the Philippines and Indonesia have smoother front teeth that are aligned with the others. This is called sundodonty. We'll call it non-shovel teeth.
My God, looking
Today,
through
most
this
Japanese have shovel teeth.
this
In
file.
Hokkaido, they have non-shovel teeth. So the theory posits that a migration must have come from Southeast Asia to Taiwan, the Ryukyu Islands, and finally to Kyushu at around 10,000 BC. This theory is compelling because we know that people in Japan after this time had non-shovel teeth. And then there must have been a second migration of shovel teethers who were more successful, probably because they ate all of the non-shovel teethers. No, that didn't happen. The people from this second migration must have then spread over most of Japan. That's another reason why this theory is strong, because we do have a lot of evidence for this second migration. Most researchers agree that migration 2 happened at around 500 BC. People crossed the waters from Korea to Kyushu. These were the Yayoi people. They brought with them the practice of rice farming and quickly became the dominant population in Japan. We'll discuss these people in a later video. There is a lot of evidence for migration 2, but the most interesting, I think, is the earwax study. Yeah, that stuff in your ears? There are 2 types of earwax, wet and dry. To see which type you have, stick a finger in your ear.
What kind of earwax do you have?
Then put it in your mouth.
Don't do that.
Mine's wet. Your earwax type is determined by your genes. About 85% of Japanese have dry earwax. 15% have wet earwax. In a great example of getting students involved in science, student teams across 42 Japanese high schools carried out a study. Researchers gave the students nail samples from people all across Japan. The students extracted the DNA from the samples and isolated the genes responsible for earwax type. They then created a map of earwax types in Japan. Scientists already knew that the Jomon people carried the genes for wet earwax, and the Yayoi carried the genes for dry earwax. The students' work showed that dry earwax is more common in Western Japan. This reinforced the theory that there was a migration 2 and helped to show the path that the Yayoi took to spread across Japan. The Yayoi migrated from Korea or China and then moved east and north, replacing most of the Jomo. Again, I don't want you to think that there were only 2 migrations into Japan. People were moving back and forth all the time, in and out of Japan. It's just that we believe the modern Japanese are mainly descendants of people from these 2 migrations. Before around 10,500 BC is what scientists call the Paleolithic period of Japan, or the Stone Age to us stupid people. They were hunter-gatherers back in those days. They moved where the big game animals were, such as mammoths and bison. Archaeologists have dug up all kinds of stone tools that they use: spearheads, blades, pounding and grinding instruments. There was a huge population increase between 16,000 and 13,000 BC, probably because the Earth was coming out of the last ice age and temperatures rose. People switched to eating more plants, either because all the big game animals were dying out or PETA was just founded. This caused people to move less, resulting in larger and larger settlements. After the Stone Age came the Jomon period, which lasted from 10,500 BC to 300 BC. The word Jomon means cord pattern or rope pattern. The pottery of Jomon people had these markings of twisted cords, which they made by carving patterns on sticks and pressing or rolling them onto the clay. The patterns were simple at first, then became more elaborate over time. We'll talk about the Jomon in the next video, but here's something interesting about them. They were probably direct ancestors of Japan's indigenous people, the Ainu. You didn't know Japan had natives, did you? There are not many of them, only 25,000 officially. They mostly live in Hokkaido. Until recently, they had their own separate culture, like Native Americans in the United States. However, today they've mostly been absorbed into Japanese culture. The Ainu culture is awesome. They clearly look different from other Japanese. They have wavy hair, lots of body hair, white skin color, and a different eye shape. After a certain age, men didn't shave, and contrary to most Japanese men who have thin facial hair, the Ainu have thick, full beards and mustaches. Think dwarves from Lord of the Rings. Until recently, women had these prominent black tattoos on their face, hands, and forearms. These tattoos were started at a young age, and more was added as a woman grew up. They used a black soot from the fireplaces for the black color. A young girl only had a small dot on her upper lip. Over time, the tattoo grew until she reached maturity. The tattoos were supposed to repel evil spirits and ensure the woman's place in the afterlife. They were also associated with marriage and childbirth. Having a completed face tattoo is how you knew an Ainu woman has reached maturity and is ready for marriage. The pain from being tattooed was supposed to help women prepare for the pain of childbirth. This probably did not work very well. We all know now that the best way to reduce the pain of childbirth is a few glasses of wine. The Ainu's tattoo use also suggests that the Jomon people thousands of years ago also had tattoos. Oh yeah, and the Ainu also had pet bears. What? Not lame ass teddy bears. Actual bears. The Ainu worshipped animals as gods, and bears were the head of the gods. They thought that gods came to earth in disguise as bears. They sacrificed and ate adult bears because the flesh and fur of the bear was an offering from a god, and the sacrifice also allowed the god to return home. Bear cubs are treated differently. When they found a cub, they brought it home and took care of it. In some cases, cubs are treated even better than human children. They were fed human food, people played with them. If the cub did not yet have the teeth to eat food, nursing mothers would breastfeed them. The cub would live like a prince up until it became 2 or 3 years old. Then it would be sacrificed to allow the god to return home. Let's pick this up next time where we'll talk about the Jomon. Did pots kickstart a 10,000 year society? After the Stone Age came the Jomon period, which lasted from 10,500 BC to 300 BC. That's 10,000 years. That's a long time. On a scale of Asian to porn star, that's firmly on the porn star end. No, really, let's take a second. Think back to
You gotta
2,000 years
go?
ago.
No
The Roman
problem.
Empire
Have a
still
great
held.
rest of your
Those people
day.
were ancient, right? Well, that's only 1/7 of the Jomon time period. To the people living at the end of the Jomon period, the people living in the beginning were long gone and forgotten. This brings us to a problem I have with our current calendar system. We're currently in the year 2017 because some time ago, people chose to start counting from the year this dude named Jesus was born. That became AD, and the years before became BC. Well, there are some problems with this way of counting. One, it's Christian-centric. The birth of Jesus is an important event for Christians, but people of other religions don't really care. It's like watching your kid perform in a school play. You don't really give a crap about the other little brats on stage. 2, we're not really sure that Jesus was born in 1 AD. In fact, scholars tend to think that he was born on or before 4 BC. 3, counting backwards, come on. 4, there is no year 0. After 1 BC comes 180. This makes counting a little confusing. For example, answer this. Let's say you're born in the year 2 BC. So at year 280, how old would you be? If you say 4, then you're stupid now. But you would actually be 3 years old. Think about it. 5. This is the biggest problem, I think. It gives you an inaccurate sense of human history. We're in the year 2017. Like it or not, this places a mental shortcut in most people's heads. It makes you think that human civilization has been around for about that long, a few thousand years. Of course, you know that people lived before year 1 AD, but you probably don't have a sense of how far back humans go. That arbitrary line at 1 AD makes many people intuitively split up human history into 2 halves. Anything after year 1 is modern, and anything before is totally ancient. But this is misleading because 2,000 years is not half of human history at all. So, is there a better system to use? Scientist Cesare Emiliani proposed a different starting point, 10,000 years prior. What happened at this point? It's roughly when humans began to build settlements and transition out of a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. The beginning of humanity's ascent, you could say. That's why we'll call this new calendar the human era. The beauty is that you wouldn't have to change our current calendar as much, just add a 1 in front of the current year. Right now it is 2017 AD. In the new scheme it would be 1217 HE. This resolves the nonsense of not having a year 0, and it starts so far back that there is rarely a need to count backwards. It is significant to everyone except aliens. More importantly, it gives you a sense of how long human civilization has lasted. Back to the Jomon. So, how many people were living in Japan at the time? Well, trying to calculate the population 10,000 years ago is like trying to calculate the number of people at a house party, but the house party happened 10,000 years ago. It's really hard is what I'm saying, so take these numbers with a grain of salt. According to smart people in the early Jomon, there were about 20,000 people in the Japanese archipelago. The population peaked in the middle Jomon at about 260,000. It then declined, and by the end of the Jomon period, it was 76,000 to 160,000. Again, these are rough estimates. There's no way to know for sure. Kind of like McDonald's burgers. You're pretty certain they're not made from the flesh of children kidnapped by Ronald McDonald, but there's no way to know for sure. Although the Jomon period covers 10,000 years, even if you pick two Jomon people
I actually
separated by
watched a lot of
1,000
this
years,
before,
their
so
lives
I'm
are
gonna
not that
skip
much
ahead.
different compared to modern times. This is because of the nature of technology. Technology has an exponential effect on progress as it builds upon past technology. Our modern society progresses so fast because we stand upon the shoulders of thousands of societies that came before us. In early cultures like the Jomon, as new inventions and poison is so deadly that half a gram could kill a small deer. It is thought that the Roman Emperor Claudius was poisoned by wolfsbane. Claudius married his niece Agrippina. By all accounts, she was ambitious, ruthless, and did not shy away from murder. Think Cersei Lannister. She convinced Claudius into naming her son Nero as his successor, then orchestrated Claudius's death by putting wolfsbane in his meal. The poison causes vomiting and diarrhea, then your heart starts beating erratically, and then you die. Anywho, the oldest pottery in Japan was found around 11,000 to 10,000 BC. Everyone sees the advantage of the bow, but don't dismiss the importance of pottery. It was revolutionary. Imagine doing even simple tasks without pottery, like storing food. To make them edible or taste better. Usually when a society invents pottery, it means that they have adopted a more agricultural way of life. You need containers to store the food that you harvest. Hunter-gatherers would not be lugging around large, heavy pots, but a society that stays in one place for long stretches of time would certainly find many uses for pottery. Interestingly, although the Jomon did create pottery and stay in settlements, they did not take up agriculture to any large degree. The earliest pottery were quite simple, then became more elaborate over time, kind of like the lies that you tell your parents. I didn't eat it. Dad, I can explain. I never told you this, but I had a pet ant. His name is Ant. And I loved him. And he died the week right before the test. I couldn't study at all. How did he die? Murder. What we know of how the Jomon lived came from stuff we found in their homes, burial sites, and garbage heaps. They lived in or rectangular plants, and nut-bearing trees appeared and became major sources of food. Many Jomon villages were created near these food sources, and they all had storage pits to save the food that they gathered. This was how these villages persisted without farming. As more large villages formed, naturally some complex interactions developed. Some villages began to specialize in what they hunted and gathered, and began to trade with other villages. Some villages specialized in fish, others in deer meat. Some specialized in water Pokemon, others in fire Pokemon. They even found a huge village with 700 dwellings and large storehouses that seemed to be a large Jomon trading center, where people from far away would come to trade. Now, you may be tempted to romanticize Jomon life. Oh, they're living off the land, living in harmony with nature, shitting in the woods. Not quite. The earliest Jomon man ever found was 5 feet 4 inches. His lower left teeth were worn down to the jawbone, likely due to biting on leather thongs his whole life. Not those, these. Leather ropes. His wisdom teeth were unused, meaning he didn't grow that old. This provided some evidence that the life expectancy of Jomon people was about 30 years old. X-rays of his bones revealed growth interruptions, meaning he must have nearly died several times during childhood due to malnutrition. It seems like life was nasty and dangerous. The average person living now probably wouldn't do so